This is Duke University.
If you go into a physician's office tomorrow and he or she prescribes you a pill, and that pill has a small chance of causing some side effect, your doctor will probably tell you about that, because that's important for you to know whether you're going to put that in your body or not, whether you're going to take that pill or another pill. That there's one treatment side effect docs often never talk about, and it's the patient's own costs. And often those costs are significant, and they can cause more distress, more toxicity than a more classic treatment side effect. So they deserve the same priority in our conversations. We interviewed some patients who'd had breast cancer and who ended up in financial distress in large part because of that illness. And we asked them, when did you talk to your doctor about the costs of care? Invariably, they only talked about the cost of care when it became a huge burden on their lives, not at the point where they were deciding whether to take a certain treatment or to go down and have a certain procedure. Then when they would talk to their doctors or their nurses, they'd find, oh, well, we could have given you this cheaper medicine. It would have been just as good. And why it had to get to the point of them suffering financially before they had that conversation is a real problem. Who wants to talk about money? And so that makes patients hesitant to bring up the conversation. Doctors feel like it's inappropriate because they don't want this relationship to be about anything other than you, the patient's best medical interests. And they're focused, perhaps rightly, understandably, certainly, on trying to make you healthier and better. But they have to remember that they're treating all of you, not just the medical part of you. And so anything they do that's going to affect your quality of life, they should talk about. We need better price transparency in the United States. Patients should be able to know how much it's going to cost them when they receive medical interventions. And we're not there yet. That said, if I prescribe a $100,000 chemotherapy to you, and there are a number of medicines on the market now that cost more than $100,000 per patient. If I prescribe that to you, there's a pretty good chance you, the patient, are going to pay some chunk of that. And even if it's only 20%, we're talking $20,000. And if I don't know what insurance plan you have, the chance you could spend that much of your own money ought to be enough for me, the doctor, to at least ask the question, do you know how much you're going to have to pay? Or to say, before we make a final decision, I want you to meet with the financial office down the hall, find out what the different alternatives will cost you, then we're going to come back and finish up the appointment and figure out what's best for you. Policymakers are beginning to get involved, in fact. A number of states, including North Carolina recently, have passed price transparency legislation. They're trying to make it so that consumers, patients, can actually find out how much things are going to cost them. We're starting to have more and more people, and this is partly driven by policy, with the kind of insurance plans that leave them with more out-of-pocket costs, which should motivate consumers to look at costs more. So we're seeing that happen, but now they have to find the prices at the same time. So I think lots of efforts are going on, and the challenge is to bring all those policy levers to bear on what happens in the doctor's office. Cost control is on everybody's minds, and yet if we are controlling costs on the back of patients, we're harming them more than we're helping. And because it's such a simple thing to fix, we just need to talk. With good conversation, we can make better choices.